Did you know 1 out of 6 youth ages 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year? Did you know that gun violence was the second leading cause of death for children and teens ages 1 through 19, and the number one cause of death for Black children and teens, claiming more children's lives than cancer, pneumonia, asthma, HIV and AIDS, and opioids combined? Did you know every 2 hours and 34 minutes, 9 youth are killed with guns each day in America? Did you know over 1.2 million students drop out of high school in the United States alone? That's one student every 26 seconds. Did you know 60% of the youth with depression do not receive mental health treatment at all? Did you know approximately 25% of all students in grades 9 to 12 indicate someone has offered, sold, or given them an illegal drug on school property? Effective mentoring is important because 70% of youth who have a mentor, they aspire to enroll and graduate from college. Effective mentoring causes 130% of our children to hold a leadership position, not just in school, but in our community. Effective mentors are crucial. They're a very, very crucial resource for our young people. And it's our jobs as mentor to enable our young people to build the skills that they need in order to succeed. You know what the old saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. When effective mentors, when we share our lessons about our own journeys in life, young people can begin to see how to chart their own course of life. You know, with demands upon schools and families and nearly every aspect of life, young people need genuine relationships to build on and people that they can trust to turn to for guidance. This is what effective mentoring is all about. Effective mentoring, it will count in the lives of our young people, and it will affect them for generations to come. This is Pastor Kenny. Effective mentoring is what it's all about.
Good evening. Welcome to the State of Our Youth, the Value of Mentorship, virtual panel discussion. My name is Blake James. I'm currently a junior at SUNY Brockport, majoring in criminal justice with a minor in media production. In 2019, I graduated from Buffalo Public School, Hutch Tech High School. Throughout my years of seeking higher education, I am blessed to have a loving family with support system. Along with my faith in God, I know I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. However, we know many young people don't have positive adult figures with fundamental support. This is why tonight is so important. The youth of Western New York needs effective mentors. This evening, we have dedicated community leaders here to discuss the value and impact of mentorship. Effective mentoring equips young people with character traits that allow them to face challenges without turning to negative behavior, drug abuse, or violence. Our panel will share their insight on mentoring and what we can do to help assist our community's youth during this time. But hold up, before we proceed, we must hear directly from our youth. Youth voices are important because the decisions made today will directly affect us tomorrow. So let's take a moment and listen to the voices of our youth.
Started with something basic. Tell me what you guys, or how would you define what a mentor is? What is a mentor?
A mentor is kind of like admirable in your life. It can be someone that's just like a couple months older. It could be someone that's like your grandpa.
I think a mentor is like she's like somebody who guides you in life,
Okay.
like helping you make decisions.
Okay. What would you want your mentor specifically to look like or be like?
I want my mentor to be like nice, but like tell me if I'm doing something too wrong, but like not judge me if I like tell him or her. Okay. I probably want it to be a girl.
Yeah.
Because girls understand more of each other.
I think a mentor is someone you look up to.
Okay.
You want to be like. Like not want to copy them, but like you strive to be somewhat like them.
Speaking of mentors, right? We're able to model today the cycle of mentorship, right? Having Robert Lowry as my mentor, as my older mentor, me being a mentee and also a mentor to you, and you being a mentor and a mentee. I think we're modeling what that looks like right now in this room, and having male mentors, I think has helped me differentiate in business, and I think having male mentors has helped me navigate through that. What would you want your mentor, something about your mentor to have, like a characteristic of your mentor?
An open mind.
Open mind. Okay.
Like I see a whole bunch of kids just sitting by themselves. People like that I will usually hang around.
Mhm.
Like I see them, but I want to like try to be friends with them. I see somebody that I would never talk to in a million years before COVID. I'm gonna try to be cool with them.
What?
See people like they'd be quiet and they turn out to be the coolest person in the world.
Have your parents acted as good mentors?
Well, my mom has been a great mentor. She's done everything about right. I don't really know my real dad, but the dad that I grew up with, like since I was younger, like 2 years old, 1 years old, he's been a great mentor also. Just he could have did better, like leaving the streets, in the streets.
Mhm.
That's really it.
Okay.
Like I had anger issues. So I played football. That's football help.
With mentorship, you seek care. So from mentors, especially parent figures, you're looking for them to care and to be there and to show up. Shamir, would you agree with that? What would you look for in someone who says, I want to be your mentor?
For someone who understands us, someone who understands me.
Yeah, someone that gets me and could help me.
I want to talk a little bit about the lack of positive figures that we have, especially male figures. All of you in here have had experience with male figures or lack of experience with male figures, positive male figures.
And I don't really have a lot of male figures in my life. I'm not gonna say it's like only me, because other people do go through what I go through, and I know that they do, but maybe not the same thing as what I'm going through.
Okay, I respect it. Shamir?
It's less male figures because like they do something in the outside world, but they're in the house, like to their family.
Yeah.
They're a good person. Like they teach them right, raise them right, try to make them not how they are.
Yeah.
And that's why, because they had one person like in the house, like they was the same person who was in the house, they would be still here.
Tell me why you think that is, though, especially for males.
It's hard to stay like on the right path. It's hard because everywhere you look, it's somebody doing the wrong thing. Like I got a lot of friends that do the wrong thing, family. I was raised like can't be a punk. You can't cry. You can't let nobody mess with you, because if you let somebody mess with you, they gonna keep doing it. You're gonna get walked over, stepped on. So you gotta put yourself in a position where nobody gonna mess with you. That was my problem in school when I was younger. I used to like get in fights, stuff like that.
Okay, because you was trying to position yourself. What happens when your mentor is teaching you, kind of like what Shamir is saying, like in the house, they're one way, they're teaching you one thing, but then outside you see something different?
I think in life there can be like good mentors and bad mentors. You ever look up to someone that's kind of not the best influence? You look up to someone that does a lot, but the things that they do are not the best.
I have a brother and his girlfriend, which is mom and dad for me. Mom, I would say she teaches me both in and outside to conduct yourself as a lady.
If I was your mentor right now, what is something as your mentor you would want me to know about you that's difficult in life that you're dealing with?
I was bad. I'm not gonna lie. When I was growing up, I was Terrible.
So pause, you guys. Nobody is a bad child.
I know, but that's what that's like.
No. As a mentor, I'm letting you know now. Don't call yourself a bad child again. You are not a bad child, nor were you a bad child. There were things that you saw with your eyes, things that you heard with your ears, things that you smelled, things that you touched, things that you were around that you maybe needed to not be around.
My Uncle Chris, he would get messed with because he got autism. And I would like fight kids on the bus older than me, but I still get in trouble for it. Like, and I try to tell like my grandma that, she wouldn't care.
So like you were defending your family. That definitely I can see plays a role in how you may manage certain things as you get older. School tends to be the space where we do feel safe enough, especially being around our friends, our peers, to express all that we've been holding in from those situations with our parents, those mentors where we can't express ourselves. So I find that very interesting. Thank you guys for sharing. Great answers, guys. What kinds of changes did you guys see in your families during the pandemic?
Let me say it brought us closer
Got you closer.
because we all crammed up in the house. Gotta see one another.
Though COVID slowed down time for a lot of people and it made them realize a lot of things, like your family, like I don't really want to be around you, or like worsening tension in your family. Have experience from myself having explosive or like volatile reactions because of how much has built up. So I think it's important that we're talking about this right now so you guys know, just from a mentor's perspective, find somebody like a coach, a teacher, a peer, right? It could be a senior in high school. Find somebody that you can connect with and link with and build relationship with. I mean, Shamir earlier shared about, how maybe he went to the nerdy table before, or the kids that's drawn about anime, but now he's a little bit more comfortable. Find your niche, find your crew, find an adult, that you do feel safe with, that you can talk to. Because I wouldn't want you guys to grow up and be the adult like myself, who never really expressed about the stuff that I experienced, and it comes out in relationships. So when you get with your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your best friends, that's when you start to see how your mentor relationships play out. Those relationships start to play out when you have your own relationship. All right. So one, I want to thank you guys again for being here in this time.
Hi, I'm Crystal Peoples-Stokes, Majority Leader of the New York State Assembly. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you briefly about the impact of mentorship on communities of color. I, like most children of my generation, my most powerful influencers growing up, and my first mentors were my parents. They taught me to love God, family, and community. They took my siblings and I down south every year to remind us from whence we've come and how blessed we are to be a part of such a rich family history. They also showed me the importance of being a good neighbor. They would host welcome to Buffalo parties for family as they came to Buffalo to help remind them that they weren't alone and that they could make it here. My parents taught me that the keys to success were God first, hard work, and education. Because I grew up in a bipartisan household, I also learned the importance of listening and understanding the differing sides of an issue, and taught me how to be a consensus builder. As I grew up, I believe that I had many mentors. Some of them were women, and some of them were men, who saw my potential and poured into me. This ongoing mentorship never stops. As majority leader, I am still being guided in some areas. I don't know everything, but I surround myself with people who I trust to help me along the way. Brothers and sisters, as we move along this path of life, it is our job to bring future generations along with us. Though I grew up in a loving family with incredible values, I never thought I'd see a Black president, a Black woman vice president, a Black mayor, a Black speaker of the state assembly. I would never even have imagined that a woman, let alone me, an unapologetic Black woman, would be majority leader. But God did. He knew when I was a child that there would be Black boys and girls who would see me and want to emulate me. Friends, there are generations of young people who are watching us. It is our collective and individual responsibility to show them that what leadership is not just from afar, but up close and personal. We must stand up, answer the call, pour into them. After all, mentorship is an investment in our future. Lift as we climb. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight for the State of Our Youth, the virtual panel discussion. My name is Robert Lowry. I am a life coach and author, and also more importantly, a mentor. And so tonight, we are going to have a rich discussion on the value of mentorship. But before we start, I want to kind of give you some context of why we are here tonight. And I want to start from a selfish place, because 2 months ago, I was sitting in the U.S. District Court, and one of my mentees was getting prepared for a resentencing hearing. And as I was sitting there, he stood up to give his statement. And during that statement, he looked back at me, and I can see a sigh of relief from his face, knowing that I was there. This mentor-mentee relationship occurred for the last 15 years, starting when he was 16, and today being 31. I reflect on that moment and thought about my years of working for a nonprofit for 15 years and then going on starting my own business. I reflected on why some of the reasons I left nonprofit. The discouragement, the disappointment I felt of organizations, not just the one that I worked for, but losing sight and dismantling their mission, meeting the needs of young people, and placing the chase of money, chase of politics. And so I went through this kind of journey of asking myself first a question, what can I do? And so this is where I got out of my silo and said I needed to grab individuals from Western New York to start a discussion on the value of mentorship. And so a lot of times when we get to places in our life, we come with This is what I know. This is what I experience. But today, I joined for this conversation to be not only the moderator of this discussion, but a listener. The process of, God, where do you want me to be in this? Because today I don't know the answer. I don't know the next step. But I do know that we have problems, conditions, and challenges that young people are falling in between the cracks and being left behind. Too many young people are in courtrooms that look like me. And what can I do to help reduce and change the trajectory of so many young people in this community? And so tonight we are joined with an extraordinary group of individuals who've dedicated their lives to this community. And so I wanted to grab our conversation, but not only the individuals around this room, but you as well. So I want to thank all of you who are joining us through Zoom, those who are joining us through social media, that please make sure you comment, provide us feedback, and ask your questions, because we will have time to engage you in that as well. So I'm going to have my panelists introduce themselves, and then we are going to get into a great discussion on the value of mentorship. So we'll start with the person on my right.
My name is Tanika Shudrick. I am a school administrator within the city of Buffalo. I've been an educator, a mentor, a coach. I think you name it. I've been there within the 15 years of being within an education, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you.
My name is Cedric Holloway. I am a recently retired police detective sergeant. I was in charge of the SWAT team, in charge of gun violence unit. I am the director of the Johnny B. Wiley Sports Pavilion, and I am the director of the Omega Mentoring Program.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Lewis. I am the president and CEO of Confident Girl Mentoring. I'm here tonight just to talk further about mentorship and why it's important for our youth and the community.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Tommy McClam. I am a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a grandfather. I'm also director of Boys and Color Initiative for CIS.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rasheen Powell. I'm a social worker. During the day, I work in a prison, Collins Correctional, Attica, and Wendy. In the evening, I'm a mentor and a counselor.
Damone Smith. I was former Erie County legislator, former Master District Council member, former Majority Leader of City Council, former president of Alpha Phi Alpha, Paramount Lodge. Currently, I'm the executive director of Buffalo Employment Training Center, as well as a leader of Scouts, in which we have 8 African American Eagle Scouts out of 1 chapter, and that's like unheard of.
Awesome. All right, so we are in the room with some knowledge and wisdom. Okay, so the first question I want to pose to the panelists, and anyone could start off first, and this is going to be very informal. And then again, if you are in the chat, and make sure you put your questions in the comments section. So the first question I have tonight is, from your perspective, what are some of the challenges our young people are facing today? And I want you to speak from your areas of expertise, whether it's dealing with trauma, poverty, racial injustice, the school to prison pipeline. And so who wants to take that first?
I can start. I know for a fact, as a mom of 2, one of the greatest things kids today are facing is centered around education.
Yes.
Not only access, but also opportunity. In addition to what the pandemic presented our youth with was, in some cases, a traumatizing experience. Some students did escape their homes to go somewhere safe, like the school building, for a warm meal, for attention, for support and love as well. So now with the pandemic, we're all forced to be in places that we were once escaping. Wow. Additionally, I saw and noticed that our teachers had to become virtual mentors in a way.
Wow.
In many cases, the presence of a teacher can encourage a child to go a little bit further, can have them forget about any circumstance they may be experiencing. With the pandemic and remote learning brought was the removal of that kind of shield and covering. Wow. In addition, I'm learning with my kids as well that they need us to listen. We're not listening as we should. they're experiencing things that we've never experienced in our lifetime. And I believe they also have the answer along with our support and guidance to be successful amidst these different challenges they're experiencing, from homelessness to living in food deserts still, and to even a lack of appropriate resources just to have a great education. I mean, Wi-Fi is going out,
Right.
power going out, platforms crashing. I believe that at one point in time, my teachers became experts, providing different software companies with, suggestions on how they can improve their home platforms. So they've been experiencing a lot, especially with the current pandemic we're in.
Love it. Anyone else want to talk about the challenges our young people are facing?
If I may, I interviewed a lot of individuals with regards to crime suspects and such, and I sit down and I speak with them. I give them Miranda warnings, and the two questions I ask is, can you read and write? And how far have you gone in school? And I tell my kids this all the time, there's a direct correlation. The individuals who I interview, the answer to the how far have you gone in school, the majority of them have not finished high school.
Wow.
And I have to tell my kids over and over again, there is a direct correlation between education and being successful. So absolutely, I stress the fact that we must finish high school for one, and then absolutely seek a secondary education at college.
Wow, great. Thank you. Tiffany?
Absolutely. So what I've noticed is a lot of social pressures, also a lot of trauma, not just during the pandemic, but overall. And it's important that youth are engaging with a community and other youth that are, really conscious and mindful of the fact that there's help available.
Wow.
So not having access to certain resources has also been challenging and difficult too. So some of those are also key things that I've noticed as far as challenges, just those insecurities and social pressures and also identity.
Wow, that's good. Tommy?
I just believe that the pandemic has just exaggerated what's already there.
Right.
So what we're starting to see from our young people is, what I see is kind of a loss of purpose. And they've lost their purpose. And purpose also encompasses, encapsulate all the things we talked about, education and all the other things. But when they don't see themselves or see a place for themselves, then they kind of become hopeless. So what I'm sensing now from all the young people we're talking to is hopelessness, and it's centered also around the lack of leadership. And so they don't see leadership around them, and you start to see hopelessness, and then we start to see all the things that come along with that.
Well, along the lines with the panel was saying, it's trauma. I work in the mental health field, and kids communicate differently. So if they're experiencing any type of trauma, abuse, not getting their basic needs met, they may act out. Their grades might go down. So an adult might just tell you, I'm going through these things, but kids slowly might act out behaviorally. So as adults, it's important for us to really communicate and speak with the children, because they are behaviorally acting out. Oh, he's just quote unquote being bad, like the young lady saw in the video. But they're screaming, please help me. There's something going on. Please help me, there's something going on. And I mean, we talk about abandonment issues, the school to prison pipeline. Some of the kids I work with in the schools are the same people I see in prison doing life. And it's like, wow, they're like kids and me with mustaches now, so it's just really crazy.
On the employment side, I see a lack of career development. Really nowadays, career development has to start in the 4th, 5th grade, especially when you start to have specialized schools. The way that the schools are specialized, if you want to go to engineering, you go to Hutch Tech. You want to go into the arts, you go to performing arts. A lot of kids aren't really figuring out what they want to do. A lot of us didn't know what we wanted to do. Our careers, we let our careers choose us. The quicker you figure out what you want to do, the more likelihood that you will have success at a younger age, instead of just trying to toss your way around and figure out. When it comes to exposure to different stuff, I'm a big advocate of the grand teacher philosophy, in which you expose kids to a lot of things, and once they find things that they like, they'll actually do it themselves. But you gotta expose them to so many things, and so we gotta increase the exposure to a lot of the young people, so that they can see what they like to do. Perfect example, I had one young lady that came in. She said she wanted to be a medical assistant. I said, why a medical assistant? She said, well, my mother is a CNA, and the medical assistant is better than the CNA. I said, well, why are you shooting so low? I mean, you come out to the basement to the first floor and think that's the penthouse. And that's not the case. You could be so much more. In 1 year, I can get you to become an LPN. And she had no idea because she just didn't get those influences. And so we have to, that exposure and those influences, we got to get to the young people, just to let them know it's a bigger world out there.
I love it. I love it. So we're going to align some of the conditions most of you spoke about, but I want to take us to how to define what mentorship is, because we hear this word thrown out a lot of times. We hear coaching, we hear training, and anyone can respond to this, but how do you define mentorship, and what do you see as its potential to change some of the conditions that many of you spoke about?
I think so. The Bible's Proverbs says, train up a child so that they will not depart. Mentoring is the proactive work that we should do. Training up a child. And I give a lot of credit to the agencies that are coming to the crime scenes that I'm investigating. But I needed someone to talk to that child beforehand. Someone to be able to say, listen, this is right and this is wrong. Because oftentimes these kids are following their peers who also don't have a clue. And it's up to us as mentors to give these kids a clue, to show them what is good, what is bad. And like I said, they get trapped in this bubble. I can recall a kid dying on Goodyear. I'm talking to him. I'm trying to get a statement out of him because he's dying. And our dying declarations require us to say, listen, you're gonna die, tell me what happened. And he's looking up at me and says, I don't know, don't let me die, don't let me die. And he's breathing fast and said, listen, you were in a fight with this guy in the middle of the street. You guys knew each other. What happened? And this whole no snitch thing, it's just crazy. And this guy, as he was dying, was holding true to the no snitch policy. Wow. And as he sat there telling me, I don't remember, I don't recall, don't let me die. And he took that last exhale and he died in front of me. Wow. And I would never, ever in my life forget that. I'm trying to talk to this kid as he's dying. I said, listen, it's foolish to hold on to this. Tell me who it is. Tell me what happened. And I was recording him, trying to get the dying declaration. because I knew he was going to tell me, because I told him he's going to die. He knew he was going to die. And he just took that last exhale. This whole no snitch thing is really bad, and everybody has adopted it as law. And we as mentors got to be able to influence these kids, tell them what's right, tell them what's wrong.
Love it. Anybody want to add to that?
I believe mentorship is kind of what holds our community together. As a child growing up in my community, I can point out to you who my mentors were in the community, and they're still there today, mentoring me throughout my career. Wow. And mentorship is almost like a lifelong dance. And sometimes it can be formal or informal. Oftentimes the life we live serve as an informal form of mentoring to those who are watching. Because that's the one thing I love about our kids. They're always watching. They may not follow what you say, but they're going to follow what you do. So I remember mentors asking, well, what kind of life do you want to live? What's going to be your legacy? Even from the school I attended, the legacy of that school was excellence. And that was what was portrayed throughout everything in the fabric of the curriculum. And mentorship is a little bit of everything. It's the coaching, it's the guidance, it's the support, it is the truth telling, and it's also providing the platform for the person you're mentoring to have a sounding board.
Wow.
You know, so it's like I said, it's this dance that continues to kind of go as a lifelong partnership in a way to help you reach what you define as success, what you define your life or you want your life to be. And the best part that I love about being an informal mentor in this relationship is the fact that you're able to build a critical thinker. Oftentimes, as growing up, I was told what I should be sometimes versus, hey, let's talk about this, and having that kind of cognitive discussion about what are you thinking about? What's going on? Right. How do you feel about this? Tell me your thoughts. And I think that's the place that we need to be in right now to rebuild our community. There are a lot of answers floating out there, but the people don't necessarily have the platform to give the answers. The people who are talking may not have the heart of the people in mind or at the forefront of their decisions that are being made. So it's now time for these formal and informal mentoring relationships to kind of rebuild the legacy of our community, and also rebuild the confidence and pride within our children.
Love it. Anybody else want to add to that?
And you find that the definition is that it's a caring adult, but when you get to an urban setting, it has to change. You have to be adapted for an urban setting, because it becomes not a caring one adult, it becomes a village. It becomes the village has to begin surrounding our young people, and then walking them to the place where they can find, and going back to quote that verse, it said, train a child in the way he should go, helping them find out what that way is.
Yeah.
And then walking through that process and being able to not only give instruction, but also to listen to and help them find their own purpose. One of the things I always do with our young people, and this question, especially with driving in the car, I ask this question. So what is that thing you get out of bed and do every morning, even if nobody's taking? And they look at me crazy, and we drive for a while, and then they'll come and say, working in the hospital, why? And then we actually begin looking at occupations and things of that nature that kind of feeds into who they are. And so it's helping them find that platform and finding that place that leads them to their God-given gift, their God-given talent.
Great. Damone, you had.
Yeah, I think a mentor is a person who takes the responsibility to positively influence the people in their environment. It can be somebody younger who influences somebody older, what they call reverse mentor. I get that a lot of times. I have to, what they tell me, we got to keep you up so you don't be stale. So, so I listen to them. They tell me what's up, keep me what's happening in the street. It can be female to male, male to female. Mentors come in all shapes, sizes, all age groups, all types of influences. And you need to have different mentors in different environments. Even if you're doing bad behavior, you have a bad mentor that's going to show you how to be bad, to the best of their ability. And so, but, we tend to like to have mentors to be good and bring out the positive in all people.
Great. Anybody else want to add to that?
I can just add to that, as Damone mentioned, a mentor is a trusted, guided friend. That word trust is so important. Absolutely. Because without that, we are unable to effectively mentor our kids because the trust isn't there. When I worked in city government up under the leadership of Damone Smith, he was really one of my first mentors. He told me how to go and get it. He said, you work here, and if you don't get the answer that you want, you go and get it. And oftentimes that's what we need to do to encourage our mentees, is to say, hey, you go and get it. And that's one thing that's really important, being that trusted advisor and also that friend.
I love it. Okay. So I had this other question I was going to ask, but I'm going to hold off on that. But first, if you are in the chat and you are on Facebook, how do you define mentorship? So make sure you put that in the chat and let us know, how do you define mentorship? So we talked about that condition of our young people dealing with trauma a lot. And so I remember about 6 years ago, a young man got shot in front of our program. And we went to the prayer vigil, and I was watching everybody speak, and I was watching his little brother crying and his kind of mother kind of consoling him. And I went back to my car, went back to my house, safe, but I kept picturing that young man who was crying and who will probably never get the help and will have to become numb to this over and over, the cycle of losing people around them and not someone asking why, be able to express himself and so forth. And so trauma plays a huge role. And I want to know from the expertise around this room, how do you work through some of that as a mentor?
Well, first we have to tell and let the kids know what trauma is. I ask the question a lot, have you ever been traumatized? They always say no, never. But then they tell me, well, so-and-so was shot in front of me. This happened, I was beat. So they don't even know they're being traumatized. And it's complex trauma because there's so much on top of it. So identifying what the trauma is,
Yeah.
but helping them through it is mental wellness. That's such a taboo when it comes to people of color going to talk to someone. You know, of course, we have our institution, we have our family, but to have a conversation with someone to help you process through some of that trauma, you know, as it happens is key, because I mean, it's adults that don't know they've been traumatized. And like you said, that numb feeling. And that same little boy you talked about, he says to himself, I have to protect myself now.
Yeah.
So now he has a different perspective, worldview on life. So he's more of an aggressor. So even with somebody who's been traumatized, sometimes they get hypervigilant. So they're going a little bit harder. So he might end up with the detective over here or in the prison with me, unless we catch him early. You know, it's too much violence. We see it on the news. We see it all over the place.
Right.
And I mean, we don't talk about anxiety, but kids get a sense of anxiety. I got to take care of this myself, or they link up with the wrong crowds, those sorts of things. So trauma is key, but to address it over and over again in a controlled fashion, i.e. family, school, formal supports.
I want to pose this to Tanika now, you know, with kids walking in with a lot of trauma. How do you deal with that as a school administrator?
There are various programs that you can actually infuse and implement right in the classroom or even as an entire school building. One of the programs that we do use is a program in which it's called Second Step, in which kids are able to, number one, identify the trauma, identify what they're going through, also identify the emotions attached to it, and then learn how to work through it. We were never really taught how to work through our emotions or how to work through disappointment or how to work through grief. That's the one big thing this year that as a school building, I really want us to focus on is about grief. How do you get this sixth grader to work through grief, or a fourth grader who has experienced 3 or 4 deaths within their home and now comes to school and is looking for relief from what's at home in school? So we want to continue something that we do. We have morning meeting to where we have a morning circle. We also have restorative practices in which students are able to, you know, work through different things and what they're feeling. Maybe they're taking this emotion out and don't know where it's coming from, and it's coming out in negative relationships within the school building. As a school, we do have like morning wide announcements. We did video announcements, and we try to provide our students with a platform, both electronically and in person, to kind of get some things off their chest. We are also partnered with various organizations. Say Yes, we have a family support specialist who actually goes into the home to help support the families, connects them with different resources within a community. Our social workers, our student support team, we're monitoring, it's a huge data collection in a way to where we're monitoring different aspects of the child. One thing that is interesting is that in a room today, I went to present about something, and I noticed that an adult in the room did not match all the adults in the room, the other adults. Her head was down. She looked like she had been crying or about to start crying, versus everyone else was jovial, up talking, socializing. And it's funny how no one else in the room saw that this one person needed assistance.
Wow.
Same thing in a classroom. You know your kids when you come in. So the door, the front door, as well as the classroom door now becomes that filter. Oh, I noticed Billy is not smiling today. Oh, they didn't give me the air high five, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that. And then also too, trying to form that trust, as Tiffany was saying, with the families, because you know how we grew up. What goes on in my house stays in my house.
Right.
So now what the pandemic did was create now these new partnerships with parents. So during the pandemic, I had parents not only supporting my teachers, but also teachers supporting my parents. So they're sharing stories and, you know, anecdotes and trying to support each other, or just having someone to listen. But it starts with us forming that community and those partnerships and paying attention to our kids. They'll tell you when something's up. They'll tell you when they want to speak or if they just want you to listen. But having the vehicle and the platform for them to do so is what helps. Also, community schools. There are a ton of activities, organizations. Our church did something wonderful that we're passing out, you know, that we want to pass to the community. But there are many different things that are out there. But as a school building, we're trying to make sure that we can get everything we can possibly get into the school building, whether it was virtually or in person, and making sure that everyone has everything they need to be successful, because trauma can prohibit education from occurring and learning as well.
Cedric, can you speak to a little bit about, you know, trauma, and especially with our young people entering into the criminal justice system, with those layers of trauma build up, and then sometimes those are exposed during that process?
And a lot of times, kids think that they're marked and they've got this duty because they've experienced a loss. Like the kid in my program, he lost a brother to the streets. So he's got to deal with his own trauma as well as the trauma from his parents shadowing onto him, because now they're like, what are you doing? Where are you? And he can't move freely. Right. And I have to talk to the parents constantly, like, he's with me, he's here, he's right near me, and they'll text, is he with you? He's on his way, he should be there in 5 minutes. You know, and he's got to deal with that. And that's traumatic for him, and it's traumatic for the mother, because she's like, I can't let him go out of my sight now because I've already lost one. So he deals with that, and that's trauma in itself, in addition to losing his brother.
Wow. Anybody else want to add to that?
I see the trauma also, it builds around just the environment. I'm going to say that just the other day, I had a young man he was jumped. And so after being jumped, he wants to retaliate. And so, but on the other hand, he doesn't want to talk to anyone because of the no snitch, or all this is going on inside of him. In addition to that, he has a relationship with a father that is not part of that. And so now he can't call him, who should be his protector. And so all of this comes in place. You have this perfect storm. And so I think that's where mentors come into play, where mentors can actually come in and can be that place, can be that placeholder to walk through those trauma events. So I think we have to, as mentors, be prepared to deal with traumas, especially if you're going to work with young people from an urban setting.
And I just want to jump back in, if it's okay. We're talking about trauma, and human beings have a response to trauma: fight, flight, or freeze. So after a traumatic event or several traumatic events, you might be in either one of those phases. And we expect the kids to just go right back to school, just to go right back to their regular lives. But there's a process of decompression period that the children need, you know. And I just wanted to add that piece in there, because you might have a kid in complex trauma over time. I'm from the hood, that's how it always happens. No, that's not normal. I mean, if he was at a Fortune 500 company, they give some time off so he can decompress and process through. But our kids just expected to be resilient. We are resilient, but I'll just take it and take it and take it. So.
But it's also key to, it's also key to make sure that the materials we use, or the curriculum and the resources we use, look like our kids and can speak to our kids. I know that some of the novels that we selected this year, one of the novels is I Am Alfonso Jones. And it's a graphic novel in which the young man is shot while going to shop for a suit to welcome his dad home from jail, who was wrongly accused. So in the midst of this happening, we had a kid that experienced a loss via gun violence. So this now provided a vehicle for him to see how someone else made it through this situation, and to provide his classmates with the discussion to help him cope through it. And even if he sometimes, some days silently sat there, he still was able to hear the encouragement and hear information and hear the discussions to where he became comfortable with the discussion. And then he began to tell his story and own his story and talk about what he's enduring, and have his classmates give him the encouragement that he needed to endure and overcome. So I think that's also key to helping our kids overcome the traumas, learning the stories of our people.
That's critical, definitely. So we do have a question from the audience. And so I'm gonna have one person respond just because of time to this question. So what can be done so that former inmates who are productive members of society can be more effective in assisting others, either just coming home or been home, or is having issues to readjusting?
We deal with re-entry out of the Buffalo Employment Training Center. And then a lot of people, a lot of the re-entry like to tell their stories and try to find an employment pathway and telling their stories. But the employment pathway is trying to become a productive member and actually get back into producing, being employed, doing the things that need to happen. Right now with the labor market, people who are coming out of reentry, those who are still what they call on paper, seem to become really lucrative. People want to hire them just because of the double layers of reporting that they have to do. So, and then plus a lot of people who are serious about employment coming out of reentry and want to enter into the work environment, a lot of them really want to go to work, and they don't want to go back. Now, we do understand there's some people that live in there and they just here to visit and they're going to go back. but there are some people who really come back, and there is opportunities for them. We got over 400 people placed out of reentry in the past few years, with a 60%, and we have about 60% employment rate for people coming in reentry, those who were serious, and that's just how the job market is. Of course, you're going to get no's, but you have to just continue to remain steadfast and go. So I would say that anybody who is coming back in and try to re-enter into the society, get employed, get real employment, and then on the side you can tell your story. But when people see you working and see how you made a change, that will influence and affect everybody else to say, hey, what you doing? And remember, we did this off of no advertisement dollars, just word of mouth. Just by people who coming in and saying, I went here and they got me working. And so that works. That's what I would recommend to anybody coming from reentry.
Thank you for that. So the last question, I may have just one or two people respond to this question, is a lot of you talked about or mentioned the word trust. And we know in any relationship you have, that is a challenging thing to go through between two people. So we mentioned the trauma a lot of our young people go through. So how do you get through as a mentor, get through those layers? Because again, a lot of our young people are on the defense. They have a lot of inconsistencies in their life. People promising them, I'm gonna be there to the end, and then something goes wrong in their life, they're gone. And so, or the program, the funding is gone, so is the program. So how do you develop as a mentor that trusting relationship from the ground up?
If you don't mind, I can speak to that. So when we talk about trust, it's an honest trust, right? And being vulnerable.
Yes.
You know, once mentees see your vulnerability, then they're also able to be vulnerable with you too. So when we're talking about trauma, as a certified ACEs trainer, we're talking about those adverse childhood experiences, right?
Right.
So when we talk about trauma, it's people say, oh, we have a trauma-informed approach. Okay, well, we have been informed of the trauma, so how do we move past the trauma? So we take a trauma-sensitive approach to mentorship, and that's really about being vulnerable, you know, being open, just being able to have access to you, sometimes even on your off hours. That's important too.
Robert, just to that same point, I have nephews who aren't nephews and sons who aren't my biological sons, and it's unconditional love.
Yeah.
You just got to show them unconditional love throughout the whole process. They're not going to always do quote unquote the right thing. And when they don't do the right thing, you're still there for them. Like I have a mentee who's locked up. He's doing 8 years and we gave him every opportunity. And because I work in the prison, I couldn't reach out to him initially. Right. So when I finally did all the paperwork to be able to write to him and communicate with him, he said, I thought you forgot about me. No, I didn't forget about you. This 8 years is going to go past and you're going to make it succeed as an adult, but I'm still right there for you. And to give you the backstory, his father died and we were in the meeting. He's angry. I mean, he was a tough, wiry street kid, quote unquote, but I saw the pain and I saw the hurt. So not in front of everybody, everybody leave, it's not a show. We had a conversation and he asked me to be his father. And at that time I was like, no, I'm not your father. You always have your father. But now I wish I said, yeah, you're my son. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But nephew works and I'm actually going to visit him recently soon. So yeah, just stick with him, man. It's my thing is unconditional. Just stay with him.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to take a short break, but before we get to that, I want to kind of just pose this question out to the panelists and as well as the audience. Is obviously there is a lot of, I would say, less Black male presence in the community, and I want to talk about that and how it really impacts our young people, and how do men of color step up to the plate. And then we'll get Tiffany perspective from the female perspective, and then obviously Tanika as well. So we'll take a few minutes and then watch this video.
Hi, I'm Erie County Legislator April Baskin. I serve as legislator for District 2, which covers the east and the west side of Buffalo, and I am also the chairperson of the county legislature. To me, mentoring is something that's extremely valuable to the community at large. I believe that community-based programs that offer mentoring actually help mold young residents into reaching their full potential and actually create future leaders. I myself have had the opportunity to be a mentor to several young people in Western New York. Before I came into public service, I started a small not-for-profit called the College Simulation Experience. And this program was set up like an interactive Monopoly game. Young people, high school students, would come and interact with a fictional college campus, and they were on a time limit to learn how to buy groceries, to learn how to do laundry, to learn how to register for classes, go to classes, and ultimately become successful college students. I felt pressed to start a program like this because I myself had way too much autonomy when I graduated from high school and entered into college, and I often made poor choices, poor decisions, and there were consequences to that. And so I wanted to have a program that was fun, interactive. I'm an artist by nature, and so this activity was definitely something that engaged young people in a fun way. I made sure that every student that I interacted with in that program really understood valuing themselves, and that even though college is not going to be everybody's choice, it is something that in our society, it's valued. People treat you different, people talk to you different, people pay you different based on your level of education. So that's a reality that I wanted young people to understand. And through that program, I feel like I helped a lot of people. I see some young people today who have gone through the program and they're college graduates. They didn't have to drop out like I did and go back later in life. They understood all of the responsibilities that a college student, especially a first-generation college student, would have. As a county legislator, I have put youth mentoring and taking care of youth at the forefront of my agenda. When I first came into the legislature, there was outreach from the Buffalo School Board, my colleagues in government, regarding a policy wherein young people who were housed in the local detention center were oftentimes transferred to family court for court appearances shackled. And representatives of the school board took issue with this, especially if the young person was not a threat to themselves or their environment. It was said that we could be introducing young people to being bound in court and somewhat making it a level of comfort or too familiar of an experience. And that's definitely not something we want to do with young people who are in a detention situation. We want them to reform their lives and come back to society whole and grow up to be adults who can contribute to our community. So I guess I'll close by saying it's important to mentor young people. It's something that we must do. Young people, they need something to look forward to. There's nothing cuter than a kid looking forward to Christmas or looking forward to their birthday. Kids look forward to play dates. Kids look forward to electronics and toys. That's why we take away privileges from them when they need to be disciplined, because we know that those are things they look forward to. So it's important for mentors of today to give kids creative things to look forward to. If we want to save youth, if we want to reduce crime, if we want to eliminate recidivism, we really need to make sure that we are engaging young people, that we're modeling good, strong behavior, that we're speaking life and value into them, and that we're ultimately giving them something to look forward to. Because after all, they're going to be the ones who run this city and who are going to be in charge of our quality of life as we grow older. So thank you.
All right, welcome back to the State of the Youth, virtual panel discussion on the value of mentorship. So we're going to get back right into this discussion, and the question I posed is dealing with Black male, the role of the Black male, and how it really impacts mentoring. And so I've noticed through my experience in a lot of the programs and even the schools, that the school could be 98% non-African American. And then the school population is the opposite. And then the lack of males, Black males in the school and programming and obviously in the boardroom. And so how do mentors kind of change that trajectory of getting our young males to see Black men present, not only in the family, outside in the community and giving back and so forth? And so some of you speak to that.
Well, I like to look at it a different way because I like to change the narrative on that. The CDC did a study because they wanted to challenge the notion that Black men are not present in the home of their children. What the study found out that of all ethnic groups, that Black men have the most positive interactions with their children. But what the narrative was actually, were they in the home with the mother? And so no, they were not in the home with the mother as all racial ethnic groups, but they still had positive interactions with their children, but they wasn't with the mom. And so that study was done 10 years ago, and I think the last one was done 5 years ago. And so Black men do have a better positive interaction with their children in all ethnic groups, and that's been proven. When we start to always start with the narrative that there's no Black men around, sometimes that gives justification for people who don't want to do right not to do right. And so then also it underlies the guys that are out there, because there are dads out there that's posted up. I go to convention, I go to meetings monthly where it's about 30 African-American brothers. I go to state conventions where there's thousands of brothers. I go to national conventions where it's tens of thousands of brothers. I have activities and I go to different meetings where I link up. I go to a Panhandle meeting, and there's every month you have an influence of hundreds of Black men. You know, you go to church, you see hundreds of Black men. So, you know, let's start to really change the narrative and say, how can we get more of them involved into dealing with other children? Because they are in the lives of their children. And so I think that's the narrative that we should come out, because brothers are out there posted up. They just don't get the attention. And then also we are excluded out of those traditional institutions. Like one of the challenges that we had was we was trying to get those little league coaches into the school system. And where are all of the Black guys on Saturdays? They are on the football fields. Now, if you can get them into the school systems, you might have a better behavior pattern. Perfect example is what Willie Hutch Jones was doing. He knew all of them kids when he was in the school. His presence there changed the difference. And so now just imagine if you had those football coaches in the schools, and we were fighting against that law that says in order to coach, you had to be a certified teacher. And so that means you had to do 6 years in school, in which you got guys who that's not where they are right now. So are we out there? Do we need to do better? Yes, but there are brothers out there.
One more person want to speak to that question?
Working with boys and men of color, that's what we do day in and day out. And what we find is that, I would say with men, there are Black men in the community, but what we have not done, figure out a way how to engage those Black men, how to engage in the lives of young people. And I think a lot of that comes down to we're seeing third and fourth generation of the problem we're addressing, and now we're seeing generational impact of those problems. And so those men who are present, a lot of them, and I've been told by men, I don't know how to interact. And so it comes down to really, I think it's figuring out how do we train them, how do we give them what they need, because they have the skills. It's already in them. I think sometimes the young men, they're fearful of the young men, not that they're scared of the young men, but they're scared of failing in front of them. And so how do we train them to the point where they may only be a week in front of them, but guess what? That week is going to be enough to lead those young men into positive areas.
I also, if I may, I think it's important for when there's a deficit for us to step up. My program, for instance, the young ladies in the program know me as Daddy Said. They really, yeah, I'm Daddy Said, and I get all the calls. Don't have me call Daddy Said. No, Daddy Said. It's important for us to step up. Positive males, positive images. Let them know how much I value them, and it's not even related to them and sex and they have to value themselves other than, and which is important for us to show as Black men and fathers, show their value and how rich they are as a person. And it's absolutely important for us to step up where there's a void. I've stood in for pageants, weddings. I'm the godfather of one that's on its way. There's one, I was talking to someone earlier, there's one who calls me for advice still, and she's in Washington, D.C. as a Secret Service agent. Wow. And I get a call from her at least once a week. So it's important for us to step up where there is none.
Absolutely. So Tiffany, I'm going to pose this question to you and then Tanika, you can follow up, is what is your perspective on the lack of culture what is your perspective on the lack of culture identity, and how does mentoring play a role in this?
So mentorship plays a key role in that, and as so much as it's so important when we talk about culturally, right? For our biases, whether they're implicit or not, to not interfere with the way that we mentor.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So when we're talking about culture, Confident Girl Mentor takes a cultural sensitive approach to excuse me. And as the other panelists said, it's so important to be present, you know, to have that presence and to really be in the midst of the mentoring. So culturally, for me, it's just really important, like I said, to not allow our biases to interfere in the way that we mentor.
Love it. Nick, you want to add to that?
I think one of the things that I love about Omega Mentoring and other programs is the fact that it's the exposure for me. Coming as a Black woman from STEM, you know, we're horrifically underrepresented in those areas. And for me, it's more or less exposing your mentees to the world and to your network. As all successful African Americans on this panel, we've built these networks that expand beyond Buffalo and sometimes across the globe. So being able to expose and show, it's all about the sight. Our kids can't imagine anymore because they're oftentimes stuck in a reality to where what they see is what they're gonna get. So how are you changing their sight? So that cultural piece comes into representation in various fields, and just being able to show them that there are other ways besides what you may see, and there are other representations besides what's on TV.
Wow.
So that is such a key component in being a mentor, is just that exposure to a broader network. And that is huge, especially in the school system.
I love it. I love it. So just make sure if you are watching on our Facebook or in the webinar, just make sure you pose your questions and add them so we can respond to you. So here's my next question to one or two people can respond to this. So we hear a lot of politicians putting a lot of resources towards the problem, throwing a lot of money at the problem, but people actually living the life that needs this attention rarely see the impact by these resources. What is one specific thing we can do to help our youth immediately? See a lot of grins.
Volunteerism.
Volunteerism?
Volunteerism, consistent volunteerism. I started out donating 2 hours a week with young men, and it just ended up lasting I've been doing it for about 13, 14 years now. But I'm seeing these guys grow up from 8 years up all the way up to 20, 22 now. We started when they was 8 years old. Being that person in your family and in your community where you can uphold yourself when people look and say, oh, wow, you know, they can kind of emulate you, uncle such and such or whoever, and they can see what it's like to be a man. You go to work, you take care of your family, you know, you got to take care of that first before you can start being out in the community. So just taking care of yourself and doing the right things, that's where you can stop, and that's free.
I just want to add to that.
Just to add that data shows that a young person who has a mentor that actually drops out on them or disappears is worse off than if he didn't have a mentor at all. And so the consistency is super important, that once you start, and I've watched it even with our own program, is that I've seen men who have dropped off and then they come back around and the young men push back because they're fearful that they're going to walk away again. And so I would say what we need is, once again, you said consistency.
Consistency.
And I would just say, listen.
Listen.
And when we think we ready to talk and tell them something, just my experience, listen some more. And then listen again, because they need to be listened to and heard.
So the question from the audience is, what is the hardest part of being a mentor?
I have to say, sometimes battling with the parents who doesn't have a clue either. I'm stressing the importance of school, and the parents say, "Oh, that's just a wall decoration. It's nothing."
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, there's a correlation between the individuals I was interviewing for a crime, all saying that they hadn't graduated high school. It's related. It's absolutely connected. And I keep telling them, the higher your education, the higher you get paid. It's plain and simple. It's simple math. And battling with the parents who don't believe in that philosophy. So, I mean, my Omega Mentoring program does a lot of different things. And the exposure that they get, as Mrs. Shedrick mentioned earlier, the exposure that they get. We took our kids to Chautauqua Institution a few weeks back. We saw a classical play, and we saw a play entitled Blood at the Root, which was about the Jinn of Six. Wow. So in this facility, there's old money. We saw Kellogg and Purell on buildings, and they were actually there.
Yeah.
And I was able to show, this is not unreachable. We could do this. This is not unreachable. Talent is equally distributed. Absolutely. Opportunity is not. And we just have to expose them to different opportunities and instill into them that education is key. Although you may be fighting a parent who's education. I didn't graduate high school, look at me.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Anyone else want to answer that? What is the hardest part of being a mentor? So you want to take that?
One of the hardest parts about being a mentor is hearing the story and not taking it home with you.
That's challenging. Yeah.
It's very tough to do because I'm a natural nurturer, so I want to always help and I want to always give and I want to always, okay, well, let's fix it. I want to pour money out. I want to, so it's so hard to not become one just because we are a trusted advisor friend, right? We're not a mom, we're not, but we become those things. And it becomes so hard when we're dealing and having those mentor-mentee relationships. So, and hearing the stories, because some of them are similar to my stories and it does trigger trauma. And it's like, oh, wait, it's not about me,
Yes.
So it's separating, having that fine line of separation. So that's one of the challenging things is the stories.
And I think also too, having to go along for the ride when they're making the wrong decisions.
Yes.
And you can't fix it. And you have to sit on your hands and just be there to keep providing just gentle guidance and support. Like you want to say like, hey, you're going the wrong way, but you have to sit there and just be that ear to listen and to gently guide. Yeah. Oh, wow. Have you thought about this? Oh, okay. Versus saying, you should do this,
Yes.
So just like she said, like, I feel you on the not being able to fix it. It's so hard because it's their life.
Yeah.
They have to make the decision because they have to learn that this is going to be how you operate as an adult or how you are continuing to operate and evolve as an adult.
So this is a question from our audience. And the question is, you have people willing to die to keep a code, which shows commitment and fulfills a need or a need is met. What does it look like to create mentoring that can compete with the gang life, or how do we compete? I mean, look like you want to answer that first?
I'll jump right in because that was even in building the Heart of Commitment Buffalo to build a program that did compete with that. And so I said, just as there's a negative impact, there's also positive impact.
Right.
So the program we actually built was built around where young people would become a part of their own positive quote gang. And so where we built so many of them that they feel just as empowered as being in the community. And one young man said that when he wanted to build so large that when he walks through the street and when he sees another one of his brothers, similar to fraternity, when he sees another one of his brothers, that his brothers now becomes an adversary instead of an ally.
Wow.
And so that helps him going from north side, south side, east side, west side. And so building to a place where I believe that mentoring can do that. And we have to, as mentoring administrators, we have to link to make that happen.
Now, before someone else responds, I'm going to just give you this example, and I know all of you with your experience have probably heard this before. So we have young people who have other alternatives to someone in their lives that says, here is fast money. Why go get a job when you can get this quick? And why go through all that process and getting denied and rejected and so forth? And then I can give you the tangible things right away. Why go through a long 12-week program and so forth and the whole school and all that great stuff? What do you tell the 14-year-old who is walking in a lifestyle of, I need something quick. My parents, my mother don't have much. And I got somebody looking at me and say, I can give you this. And so, what do we speak to, or how do we speak as mentors to young people that is faced in those type of scenarios?
I always tell them, look at the long game. Look at the long game. I mean, and especially if someone's coming at them, they know what's happening in the streets. They know what the long game looks like. Yeah. When I tell my kids, hey, who here has lost someone, or a member of a family, or lost a friend to the street, and everybody raises their hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how can you argue with me about the involvement and stuff like that? I mean, it's plain and simple. And I say, you don't see any old head hustlers out there like this either. There's no retirement program for that. I said, look at the long game. Look at the long game. See where they are right now. I said, I've got friends, and as I mentioned someone earlier, we're out there like that, and right now they're zombies or dead or in jail.
Now, I want to add to this, and I'll let you speak to this, is how do you change that condition? Because what you just mentioned as far as the jail, we hear that a lot. You're either going to end up in jail or death over and over. But we talked about even how that goes through the trauma, that this becomes a condition, this becomes normal, that having someone in my family be arrested, be incarcerated for a number of years, watching people around me, friends, neighbors die, it becomes part of it. And then I hear someone say, well, that's just the way it is. How do we, as mentors, kind of change that mindset? Because it's embedded in a sense, isn't it?
Can I say, that's where the trust comes in with a mentor. You've got to win over these kids, man, because you've got a lot to tell them and they've got to believe you.
Yeah.
God told Noah it's going to rain. He started building a boat. And everybody laughed at them.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I said, it's going to, as well. I said, some folks are not going to believe what you're doing is going to help you. Right. Some folks are going to be against what you're doing. People are going to laugh at you. But God told Noah it was going to rain, and he built the boat. I said, I'm not God, but you're going to have faith in me. Like Noah had faith in God, you have to have faith in me, because I've been 15, 16, 14, 13 before, and I've made some mistakes. Yeah. And now here I am old, and looking back at those things, it's just like, and this is a scenario I give him too, it's just like your baby brother, you grab his hand across the street. He don't want you to grab his hand across the street, but he doesn't know the what's involved in the danger of him running off in the middle of the street. So that's where you and I are. I said, I'm trying to hold your hand while you cross the street.
Yeah.
But you're like, I don't need you to hold my hand. I can cross the street on my own. But I'm like, listen, you don't understand because you're too young. You didn't figure it out yet. I've been there. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to help you out.
I think
that's where trust is. I'm sorry.
I have Rashingo real quick first, and then I'll have
Yeah, I just want to say when it comes to especially Black men, the stakes are high. I mean, we're talking life and death. We're talking 40 years incarceration. So when I'm telling them with the utmost like sincerity and the truth that this may not work out for you. You know, you'd be lucky to get out with a 1 to 3 or 6 to 5, or like you say, ladies and gentlemen, die. I mean, I know people who were murdered out in the streets. So when I'm working with kids, I'm going in like, this is my last time seeing them. You know, I'm telling them like I'm talking to my loved ones, my kids, my biological DNA. So I'm letting them know that this is it. And we talk about criminal thinking, you know, like crime, yeah, we're making money, but kids have fun doing crimes. You know, criminal thinkers, they get excited. They go, oh, I did this and I did that. So if we can find some other way to give them that fun, you know, we're talking dirt bikes or jump out of airplanes, some other type of adrenaline rush to give them an alternative to the criminal lifestyle. See, no one wants to talk about the, you know, like I grew up in Central Park Plaza area, CP. The drug dealers wasn't bad guys. It was just cool dudes, you know, they was local celebrities, you know, they came to my football game, hey, you know, so it wasn't like they were bad people. We just gotta let them know that you can do something different, you know, that this lifestyle leads to death. But I have to say that some of the most successful people I know have been incarcerated, turned their lives around and did something different, you know, just sitting there bored in jail or watching a killer, you know, from the Bronx, Brooklyn. And they saying, listen, everybody's gone. My family member died, my grandmother died. I mean, talking about the tears, they all left. So all that no snitching and holding down for my boys, they gone. The girlfriend, she's gone. She found somebody else that was going to pay her all that money. So,
on trial.
Tanika, you want to add to that real quick?
Just like you said, it's basically the community connections.
Yeah.
So like if you're talking about let's do a SWOT analysis. Let's talk dollars and cents.
Yes,
and kids love dollars and cents. And I noticed one thing when especially as a former science teacher, when I began to talk dollars and cents to kids, they're like, Miss, you ain't nothing. You went to school? I said, yes. And guess what? I got paid to go to school. Guess what? I got this. Miss, you what? I said, I had $6,000 for just 6 weeks during a summer camp. And guess what? My insurance paid me. So if I show them the game in a different light, and then I can back it up with evidence or artifacts, or have them call my friend who's been out in the street and he was dealing in New York City, but now he's a nuclear physicist working for the government, making money. So if I can show them and have them meet the people, and now with technology, it's a phone call or a Zoom call away.
Yeah.
So now I can say, you know what? I do know somebody who is actually grafting skin as a possible job. So she's taking the skin off for other people and making money. Let me show you how she's doing it. And our kids need to see that. They're in a point of reality where they need to see, you need to put the money, your money and your words in a place of trust, like we've been saying all the time, and prove it, prove it to me.
Wow, that's deep. I love it. So we're going to take a short break, a video break, and we have a few more questions and some last words from the panelists, and then we'll take it from there.
This word mentor, you know where it comes from? Neither did I, so I looked it up. It is actually from mid-18th century via French and Latin, from the Greek mentor, the name of the advisor to a young man in the book that almost every high school person used to have to read. I don't know if they still do, Homer's Odyssey. An advisor to the young. My name is Darius Pridgeon, and I'm the pastor of True Bethel Baptist Church. I'm also the president of the City Council. I'm here for just a few minutes to tell you why I think mentoring, why I know mentoring is so important. I have been blessed to have several powerful positions that I owe not only to my God, to my parents, but there was a mentor in my life that I will never, ever forget. And my dad was a great father, my mom, great mom, but as a young person, we often don't listen to them. But there was a guy in my life who was my first pastor. His name was Reverend Dr. Andrew Whitted. And Dr. Whitted became a mentor of mine without a formal mentoring relationship. In other words, he was a trusted advisor. I was like 12 years old, and he could see leadership in me when I could not. And so he had me to start a bowling league at our church. And, you know, I'm a little kid. I'm trying to put together this bowling league. Didn't really think I could handle it. And people weren't responding the way that I thought. And I went back to him and I was like, I can't do this. This is too hard. And he was a tall gentleman, over 6 feet tall. I've never been that tall in my life, will not be any taller than what I am. And he looked down at me and said these words, "Handle it." And from that day forward, I've been handling it. And he continued to mentor me in ways that you wouldn't even understand, that I didn't understand, I should say. You know, letting me carry his briefcase because I wanted to, being in rooms with powerful people, listening to the conversations, and then getting in the car and him explaining to me what he was talking about or why he was talking about it. One day I came into church and I had mud on my shoes, and he made me go in his office and clean the mud up. I was so mad at him because sometimes mentors, you're going to be angry at them. You're not going to agree with them. But now I understand why. So mentoring is so important. But here is what is even more important. Not the mentor, but the mentee. Because you cannot advise someone who will not be open enough to receive it. At the end of the day, when we talk about mentoring and mentees, has to be someone who will take the advice, might not agree, but be open to receive it. I am the council president because of my mentor, Dr. Whitted. I am the pastor of True Bethel because of my mentor, Dr. Whitted. You can achieve whatever you've been created to do, but be open enough to the advice and the guidance of others. God bless you.
I'm just happy to have a special guest from the Buffalo Bills, Tremaine Edmonds. Thanks, man, for joining us.
I'm good, man. Appreciate you for having me.
For those who don't know who Tremaine Edmonds is, a little bit about who you are.
So appreciate you. Like you said, my name is Tremaine Edmonds. I play for the Buffalo Bills, linebacker number 49, from Danville, Virginia. I have 2 siblings, 2 brothers. They also play in the NFL. They play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So growing up, man, it was just a lot of me leaning on them. You know, I was the youngest brother. You know, I was able to see growth from both of them. I was able to take something from my older brother. I was able to take something from my middle brother. And they did a good job, man, of showing me the right way, showing me right from wrong. And, you know, as well as my parents, just listening to what they had to say and just taking advice from them all throughout, you know, my years of growing up.
From your perspective, what do you think are some of the conditions that young people are facing today?
I think the biggest thing is, man, I think social media has a big toll and a big impact on what we do. I also think that it can impact you in a positive way, and also it can impact you in a negative way, depending on how you take it. There's a lot of good resources you can get from social media. There's a lot of, you know, doors that can open on social media, and also there's a lot of ways that you can get in trouble on social media. So I think, man, it just takes us educating ourselves about it, educating, you know, the positives on it, educating ourselves on the negatives of it, and, you know, using it the right way. I think, you know, the time we're in right now, social media could blow you up, you know, if you use it the right way. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is just educating ourselves and, you know, really getting education on, you know, how can this, you know, help better my life? How can I use this to my advantage? And, you know, I think the more that we educate ourselves on that, the more opportunities that we could have in the future.
I couldn't agree with you more. So you mentioned like your parents and your brothers played a significant role in your life. Is there anyone outside of your family that had an influential on your life?
Yeah, you know, I have a god brother. He was there every step of the way, and you know, as a young age, even when all of us were young, because all of my brothers, we kind of right there in age. You know, he's older, and he was able to, you know, give us some light on some things, and we didn't know him on a lot of things. So, I see outside of my immediate family, I know he was somebody that was real close to us and still is to this day, that we can always go back to him and talk to him, get advice from him, and just, he'd kick it to us the real way. And, even if we don't want to hear it, he's going to make sure he let us know, what the truth is. And I mean, you always want somebody like that. One of the biggest things in a role model is they can't always be your friend. You know what I mean? If you got somebody that's always your friend, you got to think about it to yourself. Do they got the best interest for you? You know what I mean? Because you don't do everything right. I don't do everything right. So you need somebody that's going to look you in your face and tell you like, hey, that's not the right thing to do. Or rather, hey, you need to, get on your horse and, get on that grind and, go get what you got to get.
You talked a little bit about this, but what do you think like are some key characteristics of a good mentor? You mentioned like being transparent and being upfront and not being a friend to that person, but is there other characteristics that you think sticks out to you?
I mean, I think those are big things, transparency. I say respect. Respect goes a long ways. I mean, it's hard to talk to somebody. It's hard to get advice from somebody if for one, they don't respect you, and for two, if you don't respect them. I think loyalty is one too. You talk about, having that person that's going to have your best interests at heart, but they also have to be loyal to you. Loyalty and respect could mean two different things, depending on how you take it. But, just having somebody that's loyal to you and having somebody that's going to ride with you, brother, in the ups and the downs, because it's going to be some down times. Like, that's what mentorship is for. Have somebody that's in your corner, man, when you reach your lowest point. It's a big thing, man, having that right person with you.
I'm not sure if you noticed the statistics that the number one cause of death for a young person between ages of 13 to 21, I believe, is homicide. Especially young people of color that are experiencing a lot of things in their life are looking at one or two options, death or jail. What words do you say to encourage someone who sees you in your life and where you are right now of encouragement can you give that young person?
You're thinking about, people of color, man, just to be honest with you, I think we always kind of looked at only doing certain things. And when I say that is either, I think in our community is either, you get involved in the entertainment business or you get involved in the sports business, or that's it. For one, believing that we could be more than just entertainers or, music, or we could do more than just playing sports. Like we could be doctors, you know what I mean? We could do all that type of stuff. And I think that has to start in our community first, but it has to start in our community first, man. We have to build up each other. We can't, look down on each other, and we got to stay strong in our community because that's where it started. It started with us first. It started in our community first, and then, you know what I mean? We shed the light on other people. We just keep encouraging other people that, hey, if he do it, I could do it. You know what I mean? A lot of times that's what it is. We have to see somebody else doing it in order for us to believe it. Somebody has to be that example. Somebody had to show them that, hey, I did this and I was in this circumstance. I was down in my lowest here, or, I didn't have this resource, but you have to find a way to make it out, because life is not slowing down for no one.
One of the things you mentioned that just kind of stuck out to me was, I don't know, this quote by Miriam, right? It said, you can't be it until you see it. And so kind of like, even in my own life is that until I've seen someone that looked like me in college, that I kind of want to inspire to go to college and do other things in my life. So you mentioned that piece about just seeing other opportunities and exposing young people to it. So, it's great, especially uplifting other people. I think last year you did a my cause, my cleats, and you picked My Brother's Keeper as your organization to support. Why was that so important? Why did you choose that organization?
Because, for one, just growing up, my brothers and myself, man, we were always so close to each other. I mean, I think it even goes outside of that. A lot of people don't have siblings that they can look upon like that. That's why we have to develop that friendship, or even if it's not friendship, that brotherhood. And that's kind of goes into My Brother's Keeper, man. If you got that friend that's close to you, you got that friend that you depend on, you all got to be each other's keepers. Like you all got to be able to depend on one another when times get rough, man. Because like I said earlier, times are going to get rough. And sometimes, like I said, you need somebody outside your family that you can go to, because a lot of people may not have family that they can go to. You know what I mean? I was fortunate enough. I got two older brothers that I could always go to when times got hard, somebody that I could relate to. But if you're a person that don't have any siblings, you got to find that person, find somebody in your friend group, or find a mentor. Even if it's not a friend, find a mentor that you can always go to. Your brother could be anybody. Your brother could be, a lady, you know what I mean? It don't have to necessarily be a male. It could be a female as well. Just finding somebody that has your best interests at heart, and finding somebody who you can always go back to, when times get hard.
You think your role as a professional player, do you feel you're obligated to give back to your community and really kind of show the example?
That's just that's the way that I was raised. I saw it when I was young. I saw my family always giving back. I saw the impact that it had in the community, and particularly the community of color, people of color. And, a lot of the people that's, the less fortunate, a lot of the people that, may need more things than, some other people. And I saw the smile they put on their faces. And that's the big thing with me, man. I feel that we're put here for a reason. We're here for a bigger reason than just going out and playing football. We could impact a lot of lives. And I was always for that, and I'm still for that now, man. Just back in my community, we do all type of things. We do backpack giveaways. We have a clothing giveaway, shoes giveaway. Do a football camp for the kids, no charge. We do a talent show, just for the kids, man, to come out. They can just display their talents. Because like I said, man, a lot of people think it's just sports. You know what I mean? That's kind of like how we was raised. You know what I mean? We're gonna make it out with a ball in our hand or whatever it may be, but it's more than that, man. There's a lot of people that's talented out here, but they just need that platform to display their talent.
I always tell people that I'm not a sports person. And so I worked with Boys and Girls Club for about 15 years. And I realized the impact that sports played in young people's life, and obviously the discipline, the consistency, and so forth, and the sportsmanship. As far as your drive this year, this is your 4th season with the Bills. What sustained you to kind of keep motivated and going on, like either after season? What kind of is the drive and the passion that makes you stay in it?
But for one, for me, what drives me the most, man, is just being doubted. All it really takes for me, man, is to see one negative thing and I'm going to work. Even if I feel it myself, I got that feeling in myself. I know when things are not right. It just drives me. That's what makes me go. I love to be the underdog. Just because, man, all you can do is prove them wrong. That's the thing that drives me. And ultimately, man, I'm here to win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to stop till I do it. And even when I do it, man, there's always more that you can go get after that.
Really appreciate you taking the time and joining us in this discussion about mentorship and why it's so important. And I appreciate you as a brother for what you're doing. Like you said, it's instilled in you to give back. And I've seen some of the videos of you and your brothers going out and doing the book bag drives and giving the food away during the COVID. And so that inspires me, that the fact that you're going back, and for those, especially again, men of color, to see another brother doing it in the right way. So I appreciate you for all the things, and good luck on the season.
I appreciate you for having me again.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, know you too.
All right. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to our discussion on the value of mentorship. So we are almost at our last 10 or so minutes, and we're going to continue to question a few more questions that I have for the panelists. And I'm going to start with the last question I asked Tremaine Evans, is how do you sustain your own sense of hope, your drive and vision and motivation as a mentor?
It's back to that commitment piece. I can't only speak for myself, but I want to pour out what was poured into me. So I was fortunate and blessed enough to have a lot of people pour into me and assume that role informally and formally. Yeah. So just with the same tenacity, with the same love and passion and commitment to my success, I pour out every day into every kid I come across, whether it's a formal mentoring relationship or an informal one, or just in kids I come across. It doesn't matter whether it's on a soccer field or it's, at the church, it doesn't matter. I want to make sure that everyone I come in contact with is experiencing the same love, the same commitment to their success, and the same kind of compassion that I experienced as a child in Buffalo and in many different organizations.
Yeah, they absolutely have to know that you are absolutely there for them 100%. Which in my case, I've been doing this since '99. The adult married with children folks still talk and call me and ask me questions, and it's about dedication and where your heart is. If your heart's in it, these folks know it. Yeah. And they're like, okay, his heart is in it. I'm gonna break into that hard shell that I've got, and Lord knows they have this facade that they carry, this shield and knife with them, but underneath, kids are just normal kids. Yeah. what I used to do, I have had to have gone through maybe a few thousand search warrants in my career. And it's what, 20 years. We would hit a house which has the camera outside so they can see who's buying or the police coming or what have you. And inside they've got the journal notebooks with how much product they've got, how much was delivered, who owes what, and who's working when. And you know, a lot of folks saw a lot of criminals. I saw that the talent was wasted on what they did, and the opportunity wasn't given to them to do it elsewhere. I saw accountants and managers and engineers, and the talent was just wasted. And that's why I do what I do. I think that, as I said earlier, talent is equally distributed. It was just the opportunity is not.
I'm gonna continue that same question, Tiffany.
Truthfully, it's really staying true to your mission, right? A lot of organizations, they, as you mentioned, they chase the money instead of the mission, where we need to chase the mission and the money will come. Or we know that once you find your passion is going to take you to your purpose, and your purpose is going to lead you to your destiny. That's my quote.
I love it. I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal it.
No, but that's really truly what it is. It's really staying true to your mission.
Yeah, I love it. Tommy?
For me, it's a kind of a legacy and also a way of life. As a minister pastor, is that discipleship and mentoring is no real difference. It's the same thing. And so it's just part of who I am. And I think the other thing is that it's a legacy because I have a mentor who is my mentor since I was 16. And we talk once a month or sometimes 3 or 4 times a month. But his expectation is that I give it away to someone else. And so that is also, even as I mentor young people, is I tell them right off the bat, my expectation is if you get it, you got to give it away. And so I think for me, it just has become a way of life.
Yeah, for me, it's just a passion. You know, when I was a kid, there was my father, biological, wasn't there for me like I thought he should have been. So I got lessons from some people in the street and other folks. And so when it was my turn to give some lessons, I want to look people right in the eye and tell them. So for me, it's just, paying it forward.
And so for me, it's each one teach a few. So, you teach, it used to be each one teach one, but you need to teach a few now. And so you got to keep passing it on. And then it also becomes selfish to you as far as you like to see them grow. A guy ran into me, he was very well dressed. And he's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" I said, "No, I don't." He's like, "My first job was in the council office and you was my supervisor. And you told me I couldn't wear a shirt and I had to wear a collar. And I always wore a collar, and he was very successful now." And so just watching these kids grow up. And then also selfishly, I want to see an environment for my children to grow up. My daughter is going to be looking for a husband. My son is going to be looking for a wife. And I don't want all of these kids out here, if they don't have opportunities and they ain't thinking straight, they're going to be coming for you too. And so you make a better environment by putting in the environment. Each one teach a few. And really care and try to live your best that you can. Nobody is perfect, but you live the best that you can. And these children out here see it. They see you going to work. They see you helping out. They see you bringing in groceries. They see you taking care of your children. They see that. And the other kids in the family do too. And they'll emulate it and they'll live up to expectations as well.
Love it. Thank you for that. So we have a question from the audience. So can a person who is not a person of color be an effective mentor to a child of color?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got white mentors. I got Spanish mentors. I got mentors for every situation. I got somebody that's going, that I'm gonna need help with, and then also reverse mentoring too. Because I got them young dudes be schooling me. They keep me on point too. I got white people that mentor me, that tell me, what I need to be doing. So yeah, man, mentorship comes in all forms and is not one defined way of mentor. And so he might want to learn from them too, so.
I think it depends on the relationship with the child, no matter what the color. I think when you're an African-American child being mentored by someone who's African-American, that's an added bonus. But we have people of various, ethnicities right now mentoring our kids on a daily basis. I mean, going out of their way to make sure that, they have everything they need to be successful. So I think it's possible. And I think it still would create that lasting impact as well. I think it's all hands on deck right now. So we can't just say, oh, no, just the Black men. No, all hands on deck. You love kids, let's go.
Love it, love that. Have to have our young people change even the mindset of mentoring, is that I have an advisory board of mentors. That's just one mentor.
Oh, I
So
love that.
I'm gonna have, I got a white mentor, like I said, Spanish mentor. It depends on the situation. So gather as many mentors around the table as possible. And you're gonna have your go-to, you know who your go-to is, but get as many as you can around the table, because there's some who handle finances and some who handle relationships, and be able to know who you can go to.
I love that. I love that concept. So the question I have before we get to our last question is, we talked about there's a lot of individuals in our community organizations that are focused on mentoring. And so we obviously hear a lot about youth violence or gun violence. And so one of the things that when I started this platform of this discussion was people said, okay, are you going to start a new organization or you are going to start a mentoring program? My response was no. I think there are individuals in this room, there's organizations outside of this room that are doing great work. How do we, I guess, especially for the city of Buffalo, how do we have a comprehensive network of programs to, I guess, decrease the gaps, the kids who are falling in between this program, that program, this person's doing this over there, this person is competing for the same funding, and we get in this kind of territorial kind of programs, and then we have kids who kind of get lost in the system. So what's some solution in that area?
I think we need to change how we're talking about our kids.
Yeah.
Dr. Reynolds, who I love dearly, she does not refer to kids as being at risk. Everyone is at promise.
Yeah.
So that way I'm not only catching the kids that are falling between the gaps, but I'm also catching the kid that we're now ignoring because we're all putting money towards the kids who are, falling in between the cracks. I think every situation is a kind of a unique need. There's a unique need presented. So there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how do we differentiate who needs what. So for example, one school may need something more particular for males versus this school may need something more particular for females who have their fathers or, so it's a matter of us identifying what's present, having a centralized resource, and then also tapping into and partnering with people who are already there. It's okay if we partner, it's okay. The work is there, the workers are few is the truth.
So I'm gonna push you a little further too with this and for other people, because the push is hard. So we know, like, for those who deal with funding, we know that everyone is competing for the same pot. And so it's like, okay, these are my kids, this is what you do over there. And so how do we break that? Because, and again, we're losing a lot of kids, and you made a good point, not at-risk kids, but all kids from different, neighborhoods are being lost. So how do we kind of overcome that piece?
I think we just need to stop for a moment. Like the competitive spirit is just, we don't need that anymore. We have, like you said, too many kids out here. We have a lot of resources, untapped resources that if, for an example, if Cedric and I collaborated more, we can be a better resource to our community instead of looking at it as if, oh, well, Cedric's here, Tommy's here, I'm here. Well, we're all working in silos, but we're not getting anything done. We're missing a kid. So we really have to stop with that competitive spirit. It's an ugly spirit, and we really need to stop.
We all have the same goal, is to be able to help these kids out. At Johnny B. Wiley, there are actually 3 different mentoring programs that meet there. Mine, the Omega Mentoring Program, the Zeta Arcanets, it was a junior organization with the Zetas, and there's another organization called Kappa Phi, is more like a junior Greek organization. And I realized that we all have the same thing the same assets as these kids.
Yeah.
And I've invited everyone to meet free at the facility, open up, bring the kids in, and anything that I do, like we went whitewater rafting a few weeks ago as well. I took some of the Zeta Argonauts with me, my kids, and it was just a wonderful experience for kids to experience something that would never ever stumble upon in their lifetime. But I've given them an opportunity, an experience that they'll talk about for the rest of their lives. And it's just about us coming together, bringing it all together for the one common good, which are these kids.
Anybody else want to add to that?
I think we got to get back to the volunteerism. People actually are making money off of servicing our kids. And that's their focus. They want to make money. They really don't care. The only reason why they're there is to make money. You got some people who volunteer their time. They don't get paid to do it. The only thing the money they need is just to pay for the supplies and stuff to kids. And so if your payroll for people who work is way much and you only got 10% left over for the money you raise in order to put supplies in for the kids, something is wrong. You're doing it the wrong way and the kids are at risk. So we really need to look at some of these organizations that are in the community that just are collecting money and not putting in no resources back into the kids. We do understand that there are some organizations that need to get paid. You got to pay the teachers and you got to pay for infrastructure costs and insurances. But when you got a bloated payroll and all these people's getting paid, and then the people who volunteer can't get money for supplies, something is wrong.
I think opening this, like I growing up, I remember at Build Academy having a ton of people always consistently there. So much so to where people, I thought they worked there and they didn't. But I think like coming back to the schoolhouse, coming back, like we started a community school motto at schools. Saturdays, our buildings, are open to the community. How can we reconnect and bring the community back into the school? Whether it's coming to read, we did a, Dad, bring your child to school day breakfast, in which we talk with Dad about literacy strategies, using a comic book, using dominoes for math problems. Like it was amazing, and it was packed house. But having that point in which we're inviting people back in to have these centers, because it's enough of them, why not? And then also too, how can we partner with our houses of worship? Like when I began to tap into different houses of worship around my school, it was amazing. Everyone wanted to help. It was like, great. You believe that? That's great, but come on, we need help. Because I have some of your kids here too. So it's a matter of bringing everyone back, not only to the schools, but back to our kids, because they really need us.
So we have, I'm gonna give 30 seconds for every panelist to give any last words. And I'll start with Damon.
Be true to yourself and your family. Know your limits on what you can do. If you can only volunteer an hour, 2 hours a week, let that be your limits. Find something to do. Don't always recreate the wheel. Join something that just needs somebody to help. And as well as be truthful, be faithful, be honest, and be loving, and be consistent.
Mental health, mental wellness is real. Listen to your children. Anxiety, depression, real, 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 real. That's what I have to say. Take care of your mental wellness.
I mean, it's very simple. Our children need you. And if you're out there and if you have something to give, you have something to offer them. And our kids need you right now.
Be involved, stay present, be transparent, always truthful.
Like Tommy said, our kids need us. They don't know that they need us, but they do need us. Be a friend, be a confidant, be a trustworthy partner for our children, because they do need us, even though they don't know it. They need us.
It is our responsibility to bring out the greatness in every child in our community. We need to reconnect with our kids to restore their confidence in who they are. And we need to also educate them in who they are, where they've come from, and also what they can attain.
Wow. I don't know about you, but tonight was awesome. It was truly awesome just to go through this journey. As I said, I started this discussion with the mindset that I didn't want to come here thinking I know it all, but to actually hear some rich discussion about what we can do as a community to make sure mentorship is at the forefront. And so I hope you, along with myself and the other panelists, took something away from this discussion. But this is not where it ends. This is really just the beginning. And I hope that you would take some best practices, some maybe insight from this discussion on how we can help our young people, not only in the city of Buffalo, but Western New York. So I do want to thank my panelists for joining us tonight. I want to thank our great guest speakers as well. And let's continue to fight to help and engage our young people. Good night.